Hello, hello, hello. Happy day to you. Today is September 25th, 2025. I am Erin Saniva, your high priestess today. Welcome to the temple. As we enter the temple, I welcome the presence of our higher selves. I welcome the presence of the highest consciousness into this place, highest love, highest compassion. I ask for the divine to hold us in the light today, and I welcome the benevolent teachers and weavers of the divine plan to grace this space. I ask them to support the expansion and the sharing of spiritual education and experience. This is the place where we witness the work we talk about. We can be present for the unfolding of hearts returning to their true medicine. And you may be called into this space today because you're seeking a connection to your divinity or divinity itself. Perhaps you are seeking a place where you can truly dive in to your inherent perfection and remember how to heal, to walk the path of love, and to participate in the restoration of the divine plan on earth. And so it is. Yes, welcome. Hello, everyone. Hello, so glad that you're here. And if you're watching this on the replay, thank you, thank you, thank you. This space, this podcast, this weekly temple space is here for us to really just remember who we are. And the world is filled with all kinds of distractions to pull us away from our truth, pull us away from our purpose, and absolutely, just unground you, unroot you so that you are energetically and even maybe physically dependent on big brother, big sister, whatever the format or the programming is around you. You and I are in the most powerful place in our personal authority. And so today, after watching the humanity's experience for the last couple of weeks, the last few years, I have really seen from an objective point of view how people are losing their spiritual authority. They're losing their ability to even think for themselves. And so I feel called today to talk about this, to break it down, to talk about the history of these kind of machinations that are purposefully being fed to us, programmed into us to pull us out of our center, pull us out of our personal authority. So we're going to talk about that today. So welcome. And because this is a temple space, we will also amplify our energetic presence on this planet, and we will begin with a song. I don't even know what the song is, but we're going to start with a song. Whoop. One of the aspects of medicine that I carry is improvisational devotion. And this practice helps me to connect to the divine, to my higher self, to my guides, to the higher energies, higher frequencies on the planet and beyond, and helps me especially connect to the energetics of my body and to use the power of my body and my voice and my breath and my intention to make an energetic impression upon the fabric of creation. So while I am intending to sing and connect to myself, my relationship to God, whatever that is, I am creating an opportunity for that to happen for other people as well, whether or not it's being witnessed. I'm creating it in the field. right? Sacred moment, bring me true. Sacred time, bring me true. Bring me closer to you. Closer to you. Closer to you. Closer to you. I know my heart is true. I can see through all illusion and mistruth. I discern with fire in my eyes, with fire in my belly. I am the highest light. I am the highest light. Waking, waking, waking up. Waking, waking, waking us up. Waking, waking, waking all of us. Holy sun, shine down on us. Help us to see with clarity. Help us to see with clarity. Yes, yes. Sacred drum, thank you so much. Hello, welcome, welcome. So, my friends, let's talk about personal authority. We have, gosh, the funny thing is I'm like, okay, well, how do I talk about this? Like, we need to start with the history, right? And where do we even start when we start with history? So I'm going to reach back, all the way back, 5,500 years. And if you have learned from me, if you've studied with me, either in the Magdalene Mentorship or done any training with me, you have probably heard me speak about the creation of the written language and how it changed everything. So a society that is educated through oral history, right, where information is remembered and remembered by certain people and shared by families, handed down from parent to child, grandparent to child, again and again and again. That is how you create a society that is informed, that is educated to the level of the capacity of that community, of that culture, because nothing can remain hidden. Only that which can be remembered can be carried forward. So when things start being written down, then we enter into a place where mistruths can enter. Because if you consider oral history is the sharing of mythology, legends, and personal and collective truths. When you listen to someone tell a story, you can hear, you can feel from them the truth. You can tell when someone's telling you a story, usually there's a part of you that says, is this all true? Right? Is this some of this exacerbated or exaggerated, or is this really 100% authentic? When you read information, that information has shifted from being multidimensional with oral history to being two-dimensional. And that two-dimensional information does not share emotion. It does not share personal experience, energetics, right? It is linear. It is left-brained. It is action-based. It is masculine. So at this time, 5,000 to 6,000 years ago, when there was the creation, we were shifting from just symbols and lines and dots like cuneiform, but into actual written word, including like Sanskrit, right? The Vedas were being written because the word was being, created through art. Like it was shifting from being abstract to being fabricated, to being created physically, tangible. And that shifted the human. That shifted how we receive information. That shifted how we regurgitate information. So once we started writing things down, and this is, not even to mention that the shifting from the right brain to the left brain shifted us from polytheism to monotheism. This is all happening at the same time. When that happens, you lose, I'm on the right side, you lose the power of mythology. You lose the power of story. You lose the power of the emotional, energetic imprint of what you're learning, and you lose the ability to remember because you wrote it down. But if you were to actually be present in a culture that is orally anchored, that, if you were to combine two cultures, one that receives oral history, like, for example, the Druids. The Druids did not write anything down. They had the bards who kept the stories alive. They remembered everything. And they were responsible for educating the masses, and especially the kings and the nobility, keeping them informed of what was held in the past and what was held in the magic of their reality. And once that importance was left behind, all of that previous information that was held without the written word was lost. And that is a great shame for those of us who come from Druidic history or ancestry, right? There's a whole piece of our medicine that is not here in the physical realm. It exists in the fairy realm. It exists in these other dimensions, but it does not exist for us here because we've lost it. And we've lost it because we rely on the written word. Once we have allowed our brains to not have to remember as much because we're writing things down, and this is also the danger of AI, you'll see it here and now every day, we actually lose our capacity to remember as much, right? So that's okay, I'll write it down and I'll remember it later, right? We've been doing that consistently for 5,000 years now, and we have lost our internal compass, our guiding star, right? Because we have allowed the masculine, patriarchal, action-oriented, left brain, linear, two-dimensional reality to take over our minds. And this is why it is so incredibly dangerous to be psychically open. And not dangerous to you, dangerous to society to have clairvoyance, dangerous to society to be able to speak to the dead, dangerous to society to be able to manipulate energies and communicate between the liminal space above and below the physical reality. This is why there were the witch hunts. This is why we were culled, right, by the Draco reptilians via the Vatican. Why? Because our oral history, our lineages of remembering through the body is dangerous to the power structures that are trying to control the planet. So let's speed up through the Crusades and the Inquisition, right? And let's arrive here in the present day. We are disempowered individuals. We are a collective of individuals. A collective of individuals. We are not in harmony. We are not a harmonious culture. We are a collective of individuals from different lineages that have their own right and wrong, that have their own yes and no, that have their own way, that leaders in different cultures will say ours is the only way, right? And with that, we have people who have completely lost their ability to think for themselves. And that's been the whole point for the last 2,000 years, is to remove your ability to think for yourself with the creation and the sustaining of the Catholic Church. And let us remember that the Catholic Church existed before Christ. The Catholic Church was looking for a martyr. They were looking for someone to be the face, right? To be the Messiah. They knew he was coming, and they chose him. And they chose to martyr him. The whole story was already written out. They just needed someone. And they actually were like, well, is it John the Baptist or is it Yeshua ben Nazarene? We're not really, we'll take either one. We'll take either one. So your spiritual energy, Your ancestors' spiritual energy, this vibrancy of spiritual authority and free will, has been hijacked for millennia. You know that, or else you wouldn't be here. We know this. I'm preaching to the choir, right? But at the same time, what we don't remember, what we don't realize, is that not only is it this destruction of personal authority, but it's our destruction of our cognitive abilities and our abilities to think critically and take in information and analyze it for ourselves and see what lands with truth and what lands with fallacy. So I mean, we have an opportunity almost every day to come up with, well, let's think about this topic. Let's think about Charlie Kirk, or let's think about politics, or let's think about, psyops, right? I want to use the example of the whole thing that came out with Tylenol, okay? This is a really good example because what's happening in the United States, and those of you who aren't in the United States, you may or may not be aware of this. The presence of RFK Jr. in the Health and Human Services Department serves multiple factions. Some that we are aware of and some that we aren't. One thing that we are aware of is that he's there to really break apart the controlling, overarching nature of the pharmaceutical industry that has a chokehold on the health industry, right? And in going after figuring out how chronic disease is happening in our country, they've uncovered different aspects according to jabs for children, right? And the use of painkillers. So there is, with the revelation of this information, there are people who only see things in black and white and who see things as, while this has to do with our medical infrastructure, and I use the word infrastructure because it is an actual structural mechanism that has been put in place over the last 150 years, more than that, but especially since the Rockefeller medical industry was created in the 1880s. So we have this structure that has been built, even whenever Tylenol or acetaminophen came onto the market. That doesn't actually matter. What matters is how we respond to the information that we're given. And this is why we have to really pay attention to our personal authority. What happens when people take in information from individuals that represent something that they don't agree with, such as a Democrat receiving information from a Republican administration, they have a really hard time swallowing any kind of information, no matter what that is, okay? So that position of the individual receiving information is already clouded by an ideology that was shaped for them, right? Honestly, this is a majority of people. I'm literally watching this on my Facebook feed where people are like, well, how dare you try and take my Tylenol away? Or I'm going to prove to you that Tylenol is safe. And now there's a pregnant woman who is literally on life support because she wanted to prove to whom? To her own self that Tylenol or acetaminophen was safe, and now her liver is failing and she's on life support, and her husband is trying to decide whether or not to save the baby, who is probably not going to survive outside of the womb because it's less than 25 weeks old. Okay, so this is a very clear example of cognitive dysfunction. This is not cognitive dissonance. This is dysfunction. This is how our society has created a war on your brain. This is not a war on drugs. This is a war on you. This is a war on your ability to think for yourself, right? And because stupid effing DT talks in a certain way, it makes people respond in a certain way. And it's such a freaking drone, and it's really hard to listen to him, and he sounds like he knows what he's talking about, but he actually doesn't know what he's talking about. He's just regurgitating things, okay? What he's regurgitating is coming out in a certain way that pisses off the people that did not vote for him, okay? And so what happens is that those people, and this is like a whole soap opera. You do not have to participate in this, but it is so very clearly easy to see how people will say, okay, fine then, I'm going to prove you wrong, and they hurt themselves. What are they proving, right? If you were able to actually listen to the information that came forward, the research was not done by RFK or Donald Trump, it was done by Harvard. Okay, the research that comes through is coming from sources of highly reputable institutions. At the same time, that institution that information is coming from also participated in the global PSYOP called the CV-119, the Plan Chickasaw. Figure out what I said, right? Right? Let's pay attention. Where is information coming from? How am I going to receive this information, whether or not it comes wrapped up in a blue or red ribbon? It's coming to me. What am I going to do with it? If you know me, you know that my children do not and have never had a jab. My daughter has only had 2 jabs, and that was 15 years ago because there was whooping cough and I didn't know anything. And then I learned, and I stopped. So what I also knew, nobody needed to tell me that Tylenol is not fucking safe for children. Painkillers are not fucking safe for children. Excuse my language, but what the hell is wrong with people? You put so much belief and trust into companies that have been sued for fraud, that have lost court cases based on how they have harmed individuals. And you're going to give that to your children? We have fallen so far from our ability to even intuit what feels good. Here's the thing. I married a man who is in a family of scientists. Okay? So I had to hold my own and say, absolutely no Tylenol. The fever that the child has is good. And if it gets too high, I know how to bring it down. I make my own medicine. Feverfew was growing on the property, and I made a tincture, and I have it when we need it. That is nature's Tylenol, Feverfew. Okay? If I need to bring down a fever, I freeze socks, and I put them on my children's feet. That's how you bring down a fever, okay? If there is something else going on and there's an actual infection, then you deal with antibiotics, only if absolutely necessary, right? Obviously, I'm not giving you medical advice. I'm not a doctor, thank God. but I am a mother who has done a ton of research and probably knows a little bit more about some of these topics than any doctor does. And I know a lot more about herbology than my doctor does because I educate her every time I see her. That I'm legally obligated to see her in order for my children to go to public school, right? Or private school even. Here's the thing. You are not trained to read ingredients. You're trained to trust the authorities. This has been the compounding effects, honestly, of your patriarchal society that has been in charge for the last 5,000 years. The chronic health issues in this country and in Western countries are the direct result of greed and manipulation. And if you are not even open or willing to see how greed runs the planet, then you're not in your body. I'm pretty sure you're just not here. Turn off the news. Turn off your television and educate yourself. We have been on this planet thriving for hundreds of thousands of years. Humanity is not a new species. What's new? Western medicine. What's not new? Chinese medicine. Ancient Chinese medicine. They know their shit because they have practiced, they're intuitive, they listen to spirit, right? They listen to the earth, they listen to the energetics of the body, they listen to the meridians, the ley lines of your body, and they know how to respond because they know how to listen. And before there was written Chinese language, there was oral teaching, oral sharing of information, right? Before it was the ideograms, it was even more simple pictures. It wasn't like, so I studied Mandarin just a tiny bit. And I was fascinated in college. I studied Mandarin. Well, sure. And it's so beautiful when you look at Asian languages. And you understand, like, this is a completely different alphabet because they're based on images. They're based on pictures, right? So, for example, what is the picture of happiness, or what is the ideogram for happiness? It is a woman in the house. It's the picture of a woman in a house, right? What is the ideogram for the full moon? It is shining bright. It's something that represents something that is shining bright, okay? So these informations come from the oral tradition that is also visually oriented, right? The English language, don't get me started on the English language. It's a spell. You know that. I don't have to tell you that. It's a spell, right? So we have to break free of these structures, the scaffolding that's literally built around us. If you are publicly educated like I was, you have a lot of chaos and static to break through in order to find the truth. And thank goodness I was raised by someone that said, I don't know, what do you think? Imagine that. Ask your child the next time that they ask you a big question about reality or the world or the universe or just politics or whatever, just say, I don't know, what do you think? And then they go, oh, well, that's how you raise someone to think for themselves. Instead of always answering the question and being there to educate your child, invite them into the place of curiosity, because it's curiosity, not that killed the cat. That is a phrase to keep you from being curious. Okay? Literally. That phrase was introduced and brought forward. Curiosity didn't kill the cat. Curiosity informed the cat and made it independent. Okay? So we want to encourage our children and each other. What does it feel like? What does your belly say? What does it smell like to you? Does it smell like that person is telling the truth? What does it feel like in your body when that person is speaking to you? Especially when they talk to you like that. How does that feel? And how does that inform you receiving that information? Like the way that the president talks it's pretty condescending. He's rude. We know this about him. Like, he's fucking rude, right? But but satisfaction brought her back. Is that the whole phrase? That's so funny. So that's why there is this, this very visceral, response that comes from the condescending nature that the president of this country speaks, because people are like, ugh, how dare you tell me what to do? How dare you say this is bad for me, something I've been taking my whole life? You know what I mean? But I watch people, who take NSAIDs, who take ibuprofen on a regular basis, and it says that it'll increase depression, and I've watched it happen. And like there are things that we're told that are even these like watch out for, watch out for this, watch out for that, and the like you're either going to listen to that or not, but you have to be listening to your internal compass. And this is the hardest thing for people these days, because if you had a public school education, you were trained to take in information, memorize it, and regurgitate it. You were not taught, most likely, to think for yourself or to critically think like, oh, wow, this is actually coming up against my own personal beliefs, but let me take in this information and see if it will actually shift something so that I can shift from believing something into knowing something to be true. And I think that there are some aspects of where the president is straightforward, but the thing is he uses so much filler, right? He's not actually straightforward. He's padding the information with all of his hums and haws and personal opinions and all of this stuff. And what we really need is just for someone to speak plainly and clearly. This is the information. This is what we suggest. This is where the information is coming from. And for him, he speaks like a layman. He speaks like a father. He speaks like an individual with opinions. And that is really hard for some people to swallow. I know that when Obama was president, there was a way that he spoke that made that I literally would feel in my body, wow, everything's okay, right? And yeah, and I voted for Obama, and I was, so I was in that camp. I was like, oh, he speaks with authority. He speaks with, he sounds like he knows what he's talking about. And unfortunately, Mr. T does not sound like he knows what he's talking about all the time. And that's also part of the problem, because he was actually at the very beginning of, of CV19, he was saying all of these things, but he didn't know it was just information that had been given to him that he was regurgitating without actually understanding. And so people are like, oh, you can't take chlorine, you can't do this, you can't. He was talking about ozone, and he was talking about, all of these different ways to actually treat the blood and protect yourself from infection. And he was absolutely right. But because of the way that he spoke, people could not understand it. And it was so unscientific that it just sounded like gibberish and bullshit. So there are aspects also of neuro-linguistic programming that are coming out of leaders that are on purpose, that they speak in a certain way on purpose. And it might even be to piss you off. It might even be to make you feel good, or to make you feel safe, or it might be to instigate something. So pay attention to that. You also need to be paying attention to, how am I receiving this information right now? How is this landing for me? And if you are, in a conversation with someone that says this is cut and dry, end all be all, end that conversation, because there is nothing in science or nothing in the universe that is end all be all. Nothing. Everything is constantly changing, and even your opinion is constantly changing. So you have to have that center in yourself in order to know what is true. So let's talk about that more now. Instead of talking about the things that are being manipulated around us, how can we actually lean in to our personal authority to feel what is true and accurate for us? And now keep in mind that what is true and accurate for me might not be true and accurate for you, because you have a different perspective, you have different education, you have different training, you have a different life, right? You have different past life experience as well. There's so many different factors that are feeding into who you are now that are going to inform your perspective. I was raised by staunch Democrats, and it took a huge disservice to what I thought was going to happen with Bernie Sanders, that I walked away from the Democratic Party and became an independent, and have remained independent since then. And so I did that because I was finally able to see, it doesn't even matter who we choose and what we do, because you're going to do what you want to do anyway. So what does it even matter? Right? That was a huge eye-opening moment for me. And, I'm grateful, because in that awareness, I've been able to pull myself out even further and say, I can see all of these manipulations, right wing, left wing, whatever it is. I can see it's the same mechanism. It's the same puppet show. And from this place, I can also call out the fallacies on both sides and feel good about myself having had that awareness. I do not subscribe to belittling anyone for their opinion. I do not hold animosity to anyone for them having their own experience. And this is really, really important and valuable, that we actually, if you have had this kind of level of awareness of being able to remove yourself from identity politics, then you will begin to see all of these manipulations and how the pendulum just swings back and forth, right? That's all it does. It's one extreme to the other. And if you can hold the center and see that happening, then you can make important decisions for yourself, for your family, for your community, that's going to serve everybody and hopefully help other people wake up to their personal truths as well. Hello, Galomium. Welcome. Glad that you're here. So I invite you to just place a hand on your high heart, okay? And breathe into your central heart, in the center of your being, but place your hand here on the high heart and just breathe. And I want you to breathe into your belly. Allow your belly to expand as you inhale and relax as you exhale. And keep doing that. And as you do that, I want you to feel your feet on the floor. And I want you to feel your whole body is breathing. It's not just your lungs that's allowing energy in or prana, but that you're also breathing through the soles of your feet. You're breathing through the top of your head. You're breathing through the back of the heart. You're breathing through your root chakra, through your genitals, through your reproductive system. Breathe through your skin. And now visualize here at the center of your being, the center of your heart, that there is a spinning vortex here. It's like those, soda pop tornadoes that you would make. That spiral is spinning really, really fast in the center of your being. And with this spiral, there is an infinite spiral up through your center, through the crown, and an infinite spiral down through the center, all the way down into the earth. And with this spiraling, you are connected to the sun and beyond, and deep into the earth, to the central sun of our planet. And notice how it feels to have this connection to the sun and to the earth, and you here in the center. I am not my body is mine. I am not my mind is mine. I am not my ego is mine. I am my spirit, I am my soul, I am self. I am. And so feel the anchoring nature of the phrase I am, right? And this resides in the root. But the I am is all one consciousness. So as we connect to the I am, the all one consciousness, we're also rooting in our body and expanding spiritually, energetically at the same time, feeling yourself as part of the oneness of all creation. I am. Yeah. And how does that feel when you're in the I am? How does it feel when you are in this place of center, right? How does it feel when you can just be oriented to yourself and nothing else? Maybe the sun and the earth, yeah. Get those poles. Get yourself in the center of that polarity. You are in this polarized universe in the third dimension. So you're going to anchor your body. Anchor your body in it, above, below, and you here in the center. I am. Now, when we are receiving information, we want to bring it in, either into the center of our heart or into the belly. So the belly is the place where it's actually where all of your nerve endings come together at your belly button. Okay, and the belly itself, the stomach, is referred to as the second brain. But what's here is actually your intuition. It's actually your intuitive mind that resides in the belly. The mind is unlocalized. Let's remember that, okay? The mind is unlocalized. So if an MRI machine can read what's happening in your brain with magnets, your mind is not localized in the brain. Okay? So if you can read what's happening when you change your mind, and it can be electrically measured and all of these things, then we can understand that the mind, the mental body, is not locally oriented. It's wherever we reach out to it. It resides wherever we are in our consciousness. So when we can allow ourselves to listen to the belly and ask the belly, how does this feel? What do I notice with this information? Okay, so let's stay on this topic, right? So if we're trying to, we're receiving information from new studies or maybe hidden studies that have come out in regards to jabs, right? And the childhood schedule for these jabs, we want to take in the information. Okay, well, we thought that the jabs were bad. Now you're telling us that there's something else that's involved that is making our children more susceptible. I'm going to take in this information and I'm going to hold it in my belly and I'm going to feel. What does this information feel like? Wow, it makes me really uncomfortable. It makes me think of all of the times that I gave my children Tylenol. It makes me think, wow, if I went to the doctor last week and my child has had a low-grade fever for the past 3 days following their well visit, now I'm going to give them acetaminophen because it just seems like the fever is getting too high and it won't break. And so now I'm going to give it acetaminophen. Now I have stripped my child's system of glutathione, which is a huge immune supporter, right? I have lowered my child's immune ability, right? The ability for the immune system to protect itself. That's the information that we're being given. What is happening is that with what we have been told by medical authorities, that we are supposed to take certain actions when certain symptoms arise. If we are not aware of cause and effect that is happening with our children, then we do not have an awareness of how we are participating in the cause. And then we see the effect and we don't understand how this happened, because we have removed our own personal authority to make decisions based on consent and informed consent. Right? Because we have not been given the whole truth of the information. So if we were given the whole truth of information as to what this particular medicine does in the body, we might not do that. But because the medical industry is shrouded and protected, that they are able to say whatever they want to say, and the FDA will approve it time and time again. They have approved things that are deadly. The FDA has continuously approved and rejected things. Once there have been more evidence and studies have come out after approval. So we cannot trust these structures of government that are there to protect us, because they're actually in cahoots with the industry that is not there to protect us, but to make money off of us. I know this because I can feel it in my body. And I have been blessed with a heightened awareness of truth in my body because of different trainings that I've had, including singing. I've had to master self-awareness in order to be a good performer, in order to be a good singer, and to know what I'm doing physically and what it's going to sound like when I do that or when I don't do that, things like that. So from that kind of training, plus yoga training, plus spiritual training, I have a very heightened sense of personal awareness. And so that means also that I can feel in my body when I am presented with an untruth, when I am presented with something that is a negation of my personal sovereignty. I can feel it. And this is not just because I'm psychic. This is because I have self-awareness. You don't have to be psychic to have self-awareness, right? You don't. You simply need to slow down. When new information comes in, don't take it and run with it. Let your body listen to it. Let your body orient itself around it. How does it integrate into your field? What does it feel like? What do you do with that information? You know, I had to really stand firm with my husband when he would say, the children are sick, I'll go to the store and get Tylenol. And I said, no, you will fucking not. You will let this child's fever play out. He is fine. I will do energetic work and put onions on his feet and, and do all of these things that I know will help his immune system to fight the thing that it's fighting. And I'll tell you that last week, there were several kids in his class that were really sick. They had this cough and fever, and one of his friends was out of school for 3 days. Elijah had a slight sore throat for 3 days. He kind of lost his voice. He had he coughed a little bit, and he just was down for a Saturday, and he just hung out and watched movies, and then he was fine. The difference in my child's immune system fighting off the same sickness that he picked up from his peers at school, he did not ever get a fever. He did not ever, his sore throat was just like, oh, I'm so dry. He would say, my neck hurts, right? I'm like, I think you mean your throat. It is on the inside, right? And I would give him some honey tea, and it would take care of it. His powerful immune system is that powerful to show the disparity between vaccinated children and an unvaccinated child. I can tell by looking at his friend that child is vaccinated, because I can see the heavy metal dark rings around his eyes. I can see the paleness of his skin. I can see that his immune system is not as strong. Now, of course, this is only an intuition. This is not fact. I do not know for a fact that this child is vaccinated, but come on, you can tell. If you have an awareness as a parent, you can tell. So I share all of this information with total love, with total humility, that I have been through this. And, a lot of people want to put down mothers and parents who do their own research, but the people who do their own research end up being more educated than the professionals in their industry. Because we read more and we listen to our intuition. We don't just go along with what we're told. And if you know anything, then you will know that the majority of medical textbooks are written by pharmaceutical companies. And let us also remember that your Macmillan textbooks when you were in school that are continuing to teach our children, who owned that company? Who created the the education system textbooks? Ghislaine Maxwell's dad, a Mossad agent. He was actually a triple agent. Okay, so we need to be empowering ourselves, taking back the power, right, from these infrastructures and these industries and these institutions that are not here to protect us, to educate us, to inform and empower us. We have to recognize that they are not, and that it is of the utmost importance that we are listening to our internal guidance and following it. Don't be that parent that said, "Oh, I knew I shouldn't have done that." Know that you should not and don't do it. Okay? My children have been going to a Waldorf preschool, so they're just 4 and 5. Elijah's he's in kindergarten now. And in Boulder County, we have 2 community alternative schools. One is a Montessori and his is a Waldorfian. But it still makes me so uncomfortable because it's still a public school. It's still driven by core curriculum. It's still, within the construct of control. And it makes me incredibly uncomfortable. At the same time, I know that he is being emotionally nourished and that there is emotional intelligence that is taught in this school. There's a ton of playtime and there is an openness. And a week ago, I was about to pull him out of school and say, you know what? I think I'm just going to homeschool my children because I don't trust anybody. I don't trust anything. And so we had big conversations about it, and even big conversations with Elijah about it, and saying, how would you feel if you learned from mommy and we did our own school at home? And he's like, but then I wouldn't be playing with my friends and I wouldn't have, all of this stuff. And I'm like, yeah, that's actually more important to me right now is the play and how he's learning within the play. In this school, it's called the Boulder Community School for Integrative Studies, which means that they use art and drama and play in order to learn things. And I love that. Yeah, and that's the great thing is that homeschooling is getting easier. There are a lot of enrichment programs, and you have the ability to take the federal funds that are assigned to your child and put them where you want. So you can remove your child from school and say, okay, federal funds, I want you to go to this enrichment program or this program over here. And I mean, especially since COVID, homeschooling skyrocketed, and there are all kinds of curriculums and online schools and nature schools, and there just are a lot of options. What we're going to be doing, I believe, there's so many things that are happening right now, and I can't even say too much because there's a whole reorientation that's coming for us, but for my family. So I can't really speak too much into the future of what the future will look like, but the intention has been at this point to connect with other parents that want to homeschool and to create homeschooling pods or homeschooling co-op where, maybe there's 5 or 6 kids and one parent just has to do 1 day per week. And you teach the kids 1 or 2 or 3 subjects that 1 day a week, and then the other parents and you take turns. That is ideal. That is fantastic. That's really what I want to create. But there's a lot coming. Yeah, and so, but there's also the aspect of learning digitally is also not the best, so we do what we can, and we stay, diligent and connected to our truth and to what our desires are. And Oh, you cannot. Okay, Maria, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Are you kidding me? That 5G tower, tell me how often those children are getting sick. Tell me how often the administrators are getting sick. I would never put a child in a school where there is a visible cell tower anywhere nearby. And 5G, no. The children are going to be sick all the time, if not even developing cancers. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. The graveyard, come on, Maria. We could deal with that, right? But it's those nanomillimeter waves that are going to be the most destructive. I'm going to tell you right off the bat that the children and the administrators, the teachers in those schools, they have brain fog, they have low immunity, they're fucked up, and they probably are like, oh, I don't know why. Yeah, and they probably have lung issues as well, because what the EMFs do is they actually eat up oxygen in the area. Don't even get me started. So please, Maria, don't do it. There's no reason to be torn. You can find another place that's going to benefit your child much more than that place. Oh my goodness. This is, this is the problem with this day and age, that people are just so used to the technological infrastructure that they think it's safe, even though it's totally not. And here's what my friend Scott Compton would come in and say. Non-native EMFs, which are, and this is important to the entire topic that we've been on today. He's been like in the back of my head this whole time. Non-native electromagnetic frequencies that are coming from cell phone towers, that are coming from Wi-Fi routers, okay? That means these are not natural, okay? Non-native EMF create a leaky blood-brain barrier. So what my friend Scott Compton is saying is that we're not even looking at the actual foundational aspect of what is happening with chronic disease in this country and the autism spectrum, is that we're surrounded by these NNEMFs that are allowing toxins into the brain, that are allowing the toxins from the vaccines, allowing the toxins from the acetaminophen. All of this stuff is not coming forward because the FCC is so powerful, and that the telecommunications companies are so powerful, and their lobbying power is so great that we don't even have safety research protocols or anything since the early 90s. My friends, we have been dealing with NNEMF for a very long time. And if you actually have done any studying about pandemics, you would know that that was the origin of the 1918 Spanish flu. What was it? Radio waves, right? And so the amplification of radio waves, this is also at the time when huge radio towers were put up. We had low frequency radios, but then it was the first time that we had massive radio waves being sent all throughout the world. And what happens? They consume oxygen and they make you sick. They lower your immunity. So, and then what happened after that? Well, people didn't actually die from the Spanish flu. They died from bacterial pneumonia from what? Wearing masks. And this was the study that our old friend, Dr. F, Dr. Death, we should call him, he knew that, and what did he do? He mandated masks, because what was it? It was a culling program. Okay, moving on. So we need to actually we need to know where the cell towers are in our neighborhoods. Okay, when I lived in Boulder, there were 45 cell towers within 3 miles because Boulder is turning into a smart city. So we moved away just over to the next town, to Longmont. The closest cell tower is 1.5 miles away, and it's not even 5G. I have horrible service in this town, and hallelujah, I don't give a shit, because I am so grateful that I am not surrounded by 5G towers all over the place. My mom has a 5G tower pretty much across the street from her house. And sometimes she complains about brain fog. She complains about, some aches and pains and different things. And if we were really educating each other and ourselves about the effects of NNEMF, all of this would go away. Maybe. Hopefully. So I want to just really encourage you. You can look up the locations of all of the cell phone towers that are in your neighborhood, in your town, wherever you are. If you are moving somewhere, I highly encourage you to make sure that there are no cell towers nearby. And if you are using a router, you can shield your router with a Faraday cage. You can wrap it in aluminum. You can put Orgonite on top of it. But you need to also turn it off at night. And I'm also saying things that I don't always do, but turning it off at night so that you're not sleeping with the Wi-Fi router. Our Wi-Fi router is all the way in the basement, so we don't actually turn it off at night. But these are the things that we're told that we should do in order to protect ourselves from these energies, right? So this information around NNEMF needs to be shared. And it's the main thing that people don't realize. Like, our bodies would be able to detox better if we didn't have a leaky blood-brain barrier, right? And also pay attention to some of those CV tests are created with these microfibers that are meant to tear the BBB. They literally just, I'm not going to get into that. So remember your belly, remember your personal truths, remember your center. Whenever anything comes up to throw you off of center, that is not meant for your highest good. That should be a huge warning sign that something is wrong and that you need to go within, receive this information, and digest it and see where it takes you. Okay? You can also, there's also a, I have an app on my phone that tells me what signals are coming towards me. Of course, I haven't used it in a long time, so it has to reinstall it for a second here. It is called Architecture of Radio. And what it does, so look at this. So it can, I don't know, maybe focus on there. You can see my camera that I use. So this is showing me what radio waves, so unknown carrier, distance 678 meters, 678 meters. So almost a kilometer away, there's a tower of some kind that is an unknown carrier. Okay, now let's look up. Okay, so we have satellites. I have a Russian satellite up in the sky. It's moving this way, so it's tracking the satellites. What else do I have? I have a United States Sirius 2 communication satellite that is very slowly moving. Okay, so I can look up and see all of the satellites that are above me, and I can also look around. Wi-Fi, 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 Wi-Fi. So my whole neighborhood, right? And now I can see, oh, look, can you see that? Those are, wow. There's a whole string. Can you see this? There's a whole string of satellites over here in this part of the sky, right? And I can look around over here. So I'm seeing all of my neighbors' Wi-Fi routers. T-Mobile, AT&T, let's see that. AT&T Wireless Incorporated is 2 kilometers away, and it's picking up on here, okay? This is awesome. When I lived in Boulder, here's the thing. It will read the pulses. So it would look like a whole wave was coming at me. I could see the 5G nanometers or millimeters coming to me and moving through my body with this application. So it's incredibly helpful. So whether or not you have the ability to, look up what's around you, you can see. And so, let's see if you can see this. So these are, oh, it's not zooming in. It's literally, they look like little spikes all along the terrestrial surface, right? And they're just like this. And they're all just wireless routers. And it's called the architecture of radio. It is a 360-degree data visualization of the infosphere, the interconnected system of communication infrastructure that supports our digital world. Yep. So you can, so these are, it even tells me, so these tall lines, that is a cell phone tower. And that, these are, look, that is 6,000 meters away, right? So it's 6 kilometers away. It's telling me how far. That's pretty far, right? Are there any, right? So this is a great app, and this is a great way to protect yourself. Once again, I'll put it in here, the architecture of radio. I don't even know how long I've had this. Okay, the request for a song. Well, we opened with a song, and ooh, I love it when I'm like, oh, what song wants to come through? Okay, well, here's my like protest song. It's not really my protest song, it's my activism song, Let's see if I can remember all the words. I will do my best. Here we go. Let's see. All right. Speak truth to power. Speak up in this hour and know your heart is right. And call on your allies, your loved ones and your spirit guides to help you carry the light. I sing light into all things. I will share the joy it brings. Even in the darkest of places, love prevails. The human race is rising, crystallizing, divine being. Rising, crystallizing, divine beings. Speak, speak truth to power. Speak up in this hour. It's your sovereign birthright. Call on your allies, your loved ones and your spirit guides to help you carry the light. Well, I sing light into all things. I will share the joy it brings, even in the darkest of places. Love prevails, the human races, rising, crystallizing, divine beings. Rising, crystallizing, divine beings. All change starts from within, and love reveals its infinite. And we can speak of truth and justice. It begins and it ends with forgiveness. I'm losing the key. It begins and it ends with forgiveness. So speak truth to power. Speak up in this hour. Know your heart is right. And call on your allies, your loved ones and your spirit guides to help you carry the light. So that song is about 9 years old, and I always play it with my guitar, so that was my first time doing it without the guitar, so forgive me. I actually wrote that song in 2016 when all that shit was going down with Bernie. Oh my goodness. So please speak your truth, speak your power. You are supported by the divine source, right? Our job is to break through all of the illusions. Thank you so much, Patrine. I really appreciate the support. It's like we are here. So many people give me props for speaking my truth and my power. My job is to empower you to do the same. You are also a leader. You are also so incredibly valuable and important. Your unique signature, energetic signature on this planet is needed. We need your voice, your medicine, your empowerment, your motherhood, your fatherhood, your sisterhood, your brotherhood. We need you here, anchored in your truth, being able to discern when there are psyops, when there is massive illusions being fabricated left and right. We need to be able to pierce through those curtains of fallacy to see the truth and the light in ourselves, in our beings, in the way that is here. Not ordered by some religion, not ordered by some industry or institution, but by our own truth, our own light, our own higher self, our own personal orientation. Follow the light, my friends. We are here together in solidarity, and let us continue to lift up humanity and move through this ascension process, anchoring new light, new love, new ways of being, and honoring all of our past, honoring all of those that have come forward before us, who have created our paths for us so that we can honor them and we can protect the future as well. Coming up October 4th, I am teaching my psychic development course and accessing the Akashic Records. This is incredibly valuable for everyone to understand and orient yourself, to know your baseline, to know how to call in allies, to know how to access your clairs, to develop them, to refine them, to improve upon them, and to also access your Akashic Records so that you can answer your own questions, so that you can know how to move forward without having to even pay for a professional, but that you can have your own ability to answer your biggest questions for yourself. My job is to empower you. So come take this training so that you can feel anchored and good in the decisions that you make, so that you know that you are following your intuition, that you're not following false light, or that you're not following something that is not sovereign and meant for you. Okay, go to divinesinging.com and you can find out more and register. And I love you all so much. Thank you for being here. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. I'll see you soon. To all of the divine beings who have come and anchored themselves with us, we release you. Stay if you will, go if you must. And so it is. Blessings. Bye-bye.